Hey True Seekers, this is Dan here, and today I will be doing the deck profile for Mono Monday, for Mono May, and starting with May using Faith. So to start off with, May is a True Seeker that says once per turn you may draw 2 cards for each Faith power card you discard from your hand. So the idea is that you may discard any number of Faith power cards from your hand, and if you do, you get to draw 2 cards for each of those. So if I discard 10, I get to draw 20 cards. However, I prefer not to do that in this deck. So I'm actually running 14 Faith Power cards. So I need 5 to be in play. I need 5 to be in my discard pile. And this gives me a few to play around with just to draw extra cards. Okay? And I also have all these nice full art ones with Armorino, Lumini, Hoofit, and Stagnetic. Yeah. Alright, and then I have 1 prayer. I'm running 1 prayer, even though this is a mono deck, because I have some love Animo that I might have to activate. Also, this one has Armorino on it, so I wanted another cool full art power card. Next up, I have 3 Paul's Chains. Okay, Paul's Chains should be a staple in every deck. What Paul's Chains does, it says once per turn, as long as this card is attached to an animal in your small group, you may search your deck for up to 2 level 1 Animo and place them into your small group. If there's no room for your small group, this card has no use. It also says that the animal to whom this card is attached cannot be activated, but may be discarded at any time during your setup phase. I like attaching this to either Potpourris, Servitude, so that way I can stop them from, or I can just keep them in play because I want them in my small group. And I built this deck to utilize just 3 spaces in my small group, so I can use that 4th space for a Servitude to draw extra cards, or a Potpourris to stop myself from being affected by my opponent's actions of their Cines. Okay, next up, we have 2 Tough as Nails. This card is a story card that says, if your active Cine spot is empty, you may place this card there. When an opponent reveals a Cine to you, discard this card, and search your deck for up to 3 Animo and place them in your hand. Shuffle your deck afterward. So, I like using this card instead of, say, like Flow Ultra, because what this card does is it enables me to just get a... Basically, it's something that my opponent kind of controls. It says, don't play a Cine on me, otherwise you're going to give me a huge advantage. And it kind of has the same effect as Flow Ultra, except for the fact it's a story card, it's delayed, and doesn't get you really extra cards in hand since it happens during your opponent's turn before you draw cards for your turn. It's still just a really good card to grab cards that you need. Next one, I have Paused Maws. It says, place this card in your active Cine spot, or next to if it's currently occupied by another card. No opponent may reveal a Cine to you on their next turn. At the beginning of your next turn, remove this card, as well as any other copies of Paused Maws from your hand, deck, or discard from the game. So, you just use it to stop your opponent from playing a Cine on your next turn. So, right before you go for game, you play this, so that way you can guarantee that you will have game and your opponent can't hinder you with a Cine's action or ability. Or, be taking away them points from you. For my Cines, I have Judge Weed. And it says, as long as the Cine is active, your opponent may not reveal Cines. This is also another anti-Cine tactic. Then we have Hookworm. Hookworm says, as long as this Cine is active, all your opponent's animal require +1 extra cost in order to be activated. This is extremely helpful because it does hinder, sometimes this is, once it's well played, your opponent can't activate any of their Animo, or they can't activate as many of their Animo. Grasshopper. So a lot of people like searching for cards in their deck, stacking their deck, getting card or holding on to cards until they can play them. I can use Grasshopper. It says action, when played, your opponent reveals their hand. Select 1 card they have and shuffle it back into their deck. So you just basically steal a card from them and get rid of it. So if they're adding Flow Ultra back to their hand in every turn, then you can get rid of it. Zapper King. Zapper King should be a staple cine in every deck. It says your opponent may playing level 1 Animo from their hand to their small group next turn. It is very disruptive. He has a partner, though, which says Venomouth. Venomouth says as long as this card is active, your opponent's Animo cannot be activated in the same turn that they are added to or grown in their small group. So he's also disruptive. Another disruptive card in the same vein is Venomouth Mega. It says, action, your opponent may not activate any level Animo on their next turn. So these are just really to hinder them from playing. They're really good. My last two Cinis are going to be Lurkai Mega, whose action says select one Animo from your opponent's small group and flip it over. As long as this Cine is active, that Animo may not be interacted with in any way. And Fearcrow Mega Plus, which has an action that says your opponent may not play any cards from their hand on their next turn. But as a consequence, if they defeat it, it counts as defeating two Cines instead of just one. So you are allowed running 3 Mega Cines now. And these are the 3 Mega Cines. I've chosen one run because they all have disruption effects that are kind of generic. Alright, next up, we have Potpourris. So Potpourris is the love Animo. The reason why Potpourris is necessary for like every monocolor deck is because as long as this Cine's in your small group, ignore any effects of actions of any Cine's revealed to you. There's a Cine out there called Scoffish, and Scoffish will stop you from being able to activate any of your Faith Animo. So use Potpourris to be able to just ignore that. Next up, I have 3 Servitudes. Servitude is pretty much a staple in all of our decks. There are some people who prefer the new Stagnetic. I'm pretty certain that every kind now has the ability to draw cards during their turn in a unique kind of way. Servitude says has an ability that says once per turn you may draw 1 card for each Faith, Hope, or Holy Spirit Animo in your small group. This is pretty good. You just let them sit there, put Paul's Chains on them, use Paul's Chains, grab 2 Animo that you need from your deck, and then you'll play a 3rd Animo, and then you'll just draw cards. He's really good. Next up I got Flow Ultra. Flow Ultra has the ability, you may discard this card from your small group. If you do, search your deck for any 3 Animo, reveal them, and place them in your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Right now, there is really good ability Ultras out there. I have 3 Ultras in this deck, because now alongside 3 Megas, you can run 3 Ultras. And Flow is like the best way to search for cards. We went in a tournament and people were running 2 to 3 of these cards in their deck. And Carolyn and I are over here like, well, we're only running 1 in each of our decks. And I guess that's because they're just thinking about this card differently. Also, this ability has become a unique ability that says swap. So it has the same unique swap ability as Strider level 1 and True Blue. So keep that in mind. Next up, moving on to my Faith Animo. I have 3 Hoofit. Hoofit is my anti-deck out card. He says, ability, if this card is in your hand, you may choose to discard. If you do, you may shuffle any 3 cards from your discard pile back into your deck. So, what this card, so I just use this card, the timing on this card is that it discards, goes to your discard pile, and then you get to choose your 3, so you can include this in those 3. So that way you can always recycle it back. It's really strong, hot, very powerful, and a key component in this deck. Because there's a combination with Paul's Chains, Flow, and Hoofit. Because I will use, let me go grab my Paul's Chains here real quick. Ooh, alright. So I get my Paul's Chains in my small group. Say I got it attached to my Servitude. I will use Paul's Chains to go grab Flow and 1 other Animo that I need. I will then go ahead and, use Flow's swap ability, put it in the discard pile. So Flow's in the discard pile, I get the 3 Animo to my hand. So one of the Animo I will grab will be Hoofit and 2 other Animo that I need. And then I will discard Hoofit and shuffle back Hoof It, Flow Ultra, and another card, so that way next turn I can use Paul's Chains to go grab Flow Ultra and do the same thing all over again. It's a nice little combo. Moving on, we got 3 of the Stagnetic boys. Yep. Stagnetic is a 2 for 8, has Endurance as a unique ability or a unique action, and it says instantly earn 5 points if you have 20 or fewer cards in your deck, and an additional 5 points if you have 10 or fewer cards in your deck. So he's really strong, essentially because Mage has the potential to draw a lot of cards. We run Stagnetic, so that way I can draw all the cards I want. Notice I am no longer using the Cross Trainer Stagnetic, which could be free if I have 3 or more Faith Power cards. The reason for this is because this Stagnetic can get me more points than that one could. In addition, it also has changed its effect to Preserve Faith. Next up, we got Lumini. Alright, Lumini level 1 is a 2 for 4. And grows into Lumini level 2, who becomes a 2 for 8, and you discard 1. And this Lumini has the ability that says, when this card is played from your hand to grow Lumini level 1, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Discard as many of those cards as you desire, and return the rest to the top of your deck in any order. So, I primarily use this ability to look at the top 5 cards in my deck and put them back in any order. I normally don't discard with it unless there's like extra Faith cards after I've already set up all my entire power pool. The reason why I organize my deck is because normally I have an extra Faith Power card in hand, or I have Servitude in play, and I will organize my deck in the way that most likely I want to draw those cards. And then I will go and put those cards back, use Servitude or Maze Effect, and draw those cards. It's really good. Next up, I have Lumini level 3, and I have 3 copies of Lumini level 3. Lumini level 3 has an amazing action that says you may select up to 3 standard cards from your discard pile and place them directly into your power pool. It's very strong. He's a 3 for 13, which is fair. He has that 16 Hope Fellowship bonus, but I'm not using that in this deck. I will probably build a deck in the future where I do use that, though. Okay. And then finally, I have the Armorino line. So I have Armorino. So this Armorino says, when this card is played from your hand to your small group, you may search your deck for 1 Faith Power, shuffle afterwards. So you go add a Faith Power card from your deck to your hand, which is really good with May, because then you can discard that to draw cards, or you can just have a power card to play that turn. Another card that makes this deck amazing is Armorino level 2. This Armorino has the ability that says when this card is played from your hand to grow Armorino level 1, you may search your discard pile for 1 card and place it in your hand. So if it wasn't good enough, the fact that level 1 grabs a power card, this one grabs any card from your discard pile. That is way too strong. I use it to grab back Flow Ultra, or one of the cards that I played in the previous turn that I need for the same combo this turn. It's really good. And then for the final big boss of my deck, I use Armorino level 3. Armorino level 3 has the action of Preserve Faith. They also changed the Stagnetic from Cross Trainers to have Preserve Faith, so you can't use both Preserve Faiths in the same turn, so you get to choose one or the other. So this one, Preserve Faith says, instantly earn 2 victory points for every Faith Power in your discard pile. No more 10 victory points can be earned in this manner, so he can become a 2 for 20. Which is really strong. Okay. And then for my final setup, I have Hoof It Ultra. So Hoof It Ultra is essentially a better version of the Series 1 Lumini. he has the ability that says, if this card is in your hand, you may choose to discard it. If you do, search your deck for 2 Faith Powers and add them to your power pool. So my goal with, I will use Flow Ultra, and I will grab 2 of these and my Hoof It. And then I will go ahead and use both of these to put 2 in there, and I will play 1 for my hand for the turn, setting up my entire power pool in a single turn. So I actually use this one for its ability. Otherwise, it is a 2 for 13, which is still really good. Now, I will go ahead and explain to you guys the main combo of this deck. Alright. So, we have Lumini, Stagnetic, or Merino. Okay. We have our 5 power cards here. And May. So the main play of this deck is to pay 2 to activate Stagnetic, which causes these 2 power cards to be discarded. I will then pay 3 to activate Lumini, which will get these 2 Faith power cards back with its action, and then I will pay 2 to activate Armorino. During the final turns of the game, this play gets you 51 points every single turn once you hit 10 or fewer cards. You use this Hoof It here to keep yourself from decking out. But that is the main play of this deck. And it's actually really good, and I keep recycling this cycle thing, and I'll basically be able to do this 3 times in a row. And if you can get 51 points 3 times in a row, normally you can win the game, even if your opponent has played Cinnies on you. Alright. So, with that, Truth Seekers, this has been the Mono May Faith deck for Mono Monday in Mono May. In the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating Cinnies.